This week I'm talking about diamonds, a girl's best friend, and archetypes, and also the healing process, the grieving that we need to do, and who we are grieving as well. Welcome to the MindFuckery Podcast, which is FeedSpot's fifth must-listen-to podcast on emotional abuse. I'm your host, Elizabeth, and in here we explore areas others are feared to tread. Through my own personal journey, I know how much this hurts and how confusing life becomes. So many questions, no closure, and no real answers. I've been a woundologist for over 20 years. I'm the unintentional author of Finding Lily, the A to Z of emotional abuse and divorce matters. I help you clear past life wounds, ancestral trauma, and this life wounding. And as the founder of the Inner Healing Sanctuary, I've created Wound Talking, the original wound, and Quantum Glow. I'm on a mission to help educate as many people as I can on the effects of trauma on our lives and our children's lives, and healing the wounds of our mothers and our fathers. It stops here, it stops now, it stops with us. So welcome along for the journey of a lifetime. And as ever, you're very, very welcome. This week, I want to talk about particularly the grieving process, and not just, as I've said in other podcasts and on my YouTube videos, not just grieving the person you thought they were. This is more about grieving yourself. And I want to talk about being a diamond because we are multifaceted, and throw in a little bit of like archetypes and things like that. When I wrote the A to Z of emotional abuse, I put in us being like diamonds. It's something that I've talked about for a very long time. Emotional wounds are so important. You know, the learning that we get during those first 7 to 8 years, that's ingrained in us. And that's why a lot of the work that I do around talking to the wounds and having these really honest conversations with them, you can actually heal on such a deep level. Diamonds are multifaceted, and so are we. There's so many different faces, so many different elements to our personality. And what you can do is step outside yourself and watch how you behave with certain people. If you have friends or still have friends from your childhood, as an adult, as you are now, you might revert back to a slightly less mature behaviour or way of speaking. You might speak to them in a way that you did growing up, and it might be the same at work. You have a persona for your customers, your clients, or whoever you're interacting at work. You might have a telephone voice, and you might go out with people, let's say from work, who then see a different side of you. Each of us possess a uniqueness within, and it's a sacred space inside us. In the Hopi Indian story, which I quoted in both Finding Lily and in the A to Z of emotional abuse, and so the Hopi creation story is the creator gathers all of creation and says, I want to hide something from humans until they're ready for it. It's the realization that they create their own reality. The eagle said, give it to me, I will take it to the moon. The creator said, no, one day they will go there and find it. The salmon said, I will bury it on the bottom of the ocean. The creator said, no, one day they will go there too. The buffalo said, I will bury it on the great plains. The creator said they will cut into the skin of the earth and find it even there. Grandmother Mole, who lives in the breast of Mother Earth and who has no physical eyes to see, but sees with her spiritual eyes, said, put it inside them. And the creator said, it is done. As I said, the first 7 to 8 years of our lives, we are hearing statements and we are in a position we're not able to discern what's truth or not. We're learning. And this is where we pick up some of our deep emotional wounding. So it might be that a parent or a caregiver is angry, say something that maybe they didn't mean, but as a child, you don't know that. It might be that you're seen as a troublemaker. It might be that this is where you can see the difference between you and a sibling, the golden child. It might be that you witness things, and in this time you take these on as beliefs. It's where we learn maybe about our political or religious beliefs, and what happens in that time is deep rooted. And this is why a lot of the work that I do is going back to childhood and finding out where that belief comes from, where the root cause of that belief is, and removing it. A lot of the other work that I do is having these honest conversations, because what you're able to do as an adult is see with adult eyes what was going on as a child in your childhood, and you're able to be the person in your life that you needed at that time. So we are multifaceted. There are so many different elements. When I was writing the book, I was recalling a story that I'd heard. I actually heard it through Debbie Ford, and she relays it through her book, which one was it? It was The Dark Side of the Light Chasers. And it was about her spiritual experience and about healing all the dark side of us. And she talks about John Welwood's book about the castle. She said, so gradually over time, you close doors, and she describes it as one day waking up being a 2-bed semi. So with this analogy, John Welwood talks about when we're born, we're castles, and we've got rooms from top to bottom, basements, kitchens, hallways, ballrooms, dance floor, everything. That's who we are. And he talks about how as children we're able to explore every room. The room represents a part of us. In a diamond, it's a facet of us, but let's look at it as a room at the moment. And we can go in and we can run around, we can run up and down hallways, and we can dance around the ballrooms, and we can skip into playrooms, and we can have messy play in the kitchens and run around in the gardens and make dens. But over time, perhaps we're told that we're either too loud, or our colours are too bright, maybe our rooms are too quiet, colours clash, and you might have realised that you had rooms that nobody else had. So you close all these rooms off to the public because you don't know how to deal with them. And John Welwood said, we can only find the key to our uniqueness by opening up the rooms to our castle. And this might be quite scary and quite daunting. It might appeal to you. It might feel quite exciting. Think of it like taking the dust sheets off and uncovering these rooms of love and courage, elegance and grace. And you might still have part of those rooms open, but you might protect a few elements in there. So you're opening up perhaps rooms of creativity and femininity, honesty, integrity, of health, assertiveness, sexiness and power. Throwing open the doors and windows to the rooms of timidity and hatred, greed, fragility, laziness, arrogance, sickness, evil. Healing is about shining the light and exploring them. This is actually part of the shadow work. The conditioning that comes from our childhood makes us scared of what we might find lurking behind closed doors or under dust sheets. The locks might be rusty, and rather than running off on a journey of self-discovery, we actually pretend that they no longer or never existed. I want you to think of your healing journey like this. This is your castle. You are the diamond. Your castle was full of light and love and wonder. Perhaps it's time to get out the cloth and shine a diamond. Take which analogy works for you, the multifaceted diamond or the castle. When we go through a process of healing from emotionally abusive relationships or healing from any toxic relationship, when we walk away, it's scary. We don't know who we are, and a part of us, it might be one of the rooms, will step forward. And one of your facets is an archetype. And it might be that the archetype of warrior has stepped into your life. She's taking care of you. She's going to fight your corner while you heal the wounds, while you recover from the trauma, while you discover who you are again. It might be another type of warrior. It might be another archetype that steps in. It might be a sage archetype. And when I talk about grief, I think it's a really important part. It's come up a few times recently in various conversations. Initially, we go through the grieving process of the relationship. We grieve the person we thought the abuser was. We sometimes initially can't see who they were, so we actually protect them. And this is where the healing starts. The healing starts when you can actually start calling out that behavior is abusive. That's when you know that you're starting to heal. All the time that you're protecting them, when somebody might say something you might justify, and those are wounds. These are wounds that are protecting. And then what happens is, as I said, some part of you, an element, a facet of your diamond, one of your rooms opens up and allows a part of your personality out to help you, and they protect you. Initially, you've grieved the relationship, you've grieved the person you thought they were. You've got somebody who's stepped in, who's protecting you, like a guardian angel or a fairy godmother or a sage. They might be, as I said, a warrior that's quite aggressive and is going to fight for you. This is a personality trait that's coming out. As you move to the next stage, you also need to grieve the loss of that person. You're also grieving parts of yourself. And I think this is the most important part. It's such an important area to acknowledge. Acknowledging the person that was able, or the part of you that was able to step in. You're grieving the person you were in that relationship, who you were, for could be decades. You're grieving the person then that stepped in as you're healing, as they're helping you heal these wounds, the trauma, releasing, understanding, inner standing. At some point, that archetype, that person will step back and they'll let another element. And some of these moments are quite scary. I was talking to a couple of people this week about how scary it can be because you don't know who this person is. I remember one transition and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even know I'm going to like this element of me. How do I know? I've loved a version of me for so long, but I've had to grieve her because she's gone. She was destroyed. The life and soul of her was sucked out of her. And now a different person has to step in. One that might be a bit feisty and, having to prove herself, or a bit more assertive than people are used to, setting boundaries that people aren't used to. And that's a whole different story, because if you've never been a boundary setter, other people don't like it. Because particularly if they've been able to manipulate you and get you to do things on their terms, on their time scales. So it can be scary with this new part of you stepping forward. There's so many elements of grief. So you've grieved the relationship, you've grieved who the abuser was, the person that you're realizing who they are now and who they were all along, but they were wearing this mask. You've also the fake future that they promised you, the thing that held you in that relationship, kept you there because you kept thinking, okay, well, this is what I'm working towards. Our life is going to look like this. And all of that's gone. So there's a whole chunk of grief there. Somebody steps in, one of your archetypes steps in and helps you, and they take over running your life. It might be an inner child that takes over, and you're able to help heal that inner child and her wounds or his wounds. And then you've got an archetype that steps in, a part of your personality that you might not realise that was there all along, waiting to be discovered, waiting to come. She's in there, or he's in there protecting you. There's a grief with every stage. And then as you're evolving, you're grieving the part that you're letting go. This is such an important part of your healing process, is allowing this grief. I remember as this was happening to me, it actually scared me quite a lot. And I was really worried that I actually wasn't going to like the person that I was becoming. And it's like getting used to, I suppose, a new partner. You meet somebody new and you have to get used to how they aren't like other people. And particularly if they're nice, oh my gosh, that is really foreign to you. And it might be the first relationship where somebody has treated you well, really seen you, not pretended to so they can manipulate you. This person sees you and they like who you are. And it's like having that relationship with yourself. It's dynamic, it's huge. And it's empowering. And then it's letting go. It's letting go of all those people, or allowing them and acknowledging them and loving them for the part they played in your life. A lot of the relationships you might have experienced growing up might be conditional love, conditional everything. I love you when you become, and this is how we close the doors on the rooms in our castle. I love you on the condition that you don't behave like that. You get a gift on the condition that you live by my rules. We'll celebrate your birthday on the condition. And this is how we learn. We've never had acceptance of who we are. And that might be an internal fight that you experience yourself. As I said, I went through this really scary period of time, realizing the transition that had taken place, where that person, that archetype, that element of me, that room, that person that lived in that room, decided it was okay now. They could step away and allow another element of me, of the person inside me, like the creator has put inside me, allow that to emerge, allow me to emerge. And that's scary. That's a really scary place to be, because that person has never been accepted. That person was never allowed to develop. And there is some form of growing up within that process as well. If you are experiencing all sorts of emotions, always take a step back and ask what's going on. What's going on inside you? Is it a transition? Are you transitioning from one position to another now? Is one part of your psyche transitioning? You could even look at it that as this process is taking place, it could be that your 3-year-old has transitioned into a 7-year-old, or your 7-year-old has transitioned into a 14-year-old, and you've gone through those teenage years. It might be that you're coming out of the teenage years and going into your early 20s. If that helps you with this understanding or understanding and processing of what's going on, these are different elements, and you are allowed to explore them all. You are allowed to do that. You're allowed to find out what you like about yourself. And it's such an important process in healing. But grieving that process, grieving that person that helped you is so very important. I hope this has been helpful. There's a self-care guide that is free. You can download that. The link is below. There are loads of free resources. You can also go through my YouTube channel. The links again are in the description. Find meditations and things, grounding that will help you. Staying in your body is so important during these times. Your mind has been tricked, and as you heal and come out of this, you're discovering so many different things about yourself that some you knew but weren't able to do, and other things that you didn't realize you could do yourself. It's such an empowering time, and this is your time to shine like a diamond. Sending you loads and loads of love until next time.